everyone. I'm talking with Barb today. Barb has been in my life for a long time, and I really appreciate her. She really helped me with my body, back in the, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years ago, I think. Anyway, Barb, can you please tell me and our audience what you do?
Okay, well, hello, audience. My name is Barb Beavis. I'm a functional nutrition practitioner here in Saskatoon. My business is called Flex Appeal Functional Nutrition. And what I try to do is educate people on how they can use food and lifestyle modifications as a form of sustainable treatment for healing. So kind of one of the mantras I live by is health is not a one and done policy. So I'm not the one you want if you're looking for a quick fix. What I do is therapy. And of course, these things, healing takes time. And my niche market is people with autoimmune diseases or metabolic disorders. But of course, I can help anyone if you're just looking to improve your digestion, you want to feel better, maybe you're not sleeping well. So yeah, I can do all kinds of stuff with food.
With food, yeah, I love that. That's really up my alley. I love the whole food aspect of food as medicine, that kind of thing.
Right.
Or
yeah.
not eating food as medicine as well. That kind of plays a part. Eating the right food and not eating the bad food or whatever.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. So let's say, some people might not know what you actually can help with. Like, sometimes I have insomnia, or sometimes, not often, but sometimes I have, runny poops or something, right? So like, what in the average life of let's say a woman, because I'm a woman, and I, or even a man, let's say, anybody really, let's say, something's just kind of off, but you can't really pinpoint it. You can kind of help pinpoint what might be going on in the body, right?
Right. So oftentimes the clients that I see are people who have done and tried everything and nothing's working. Typically, when we're not feeling well, the first thing we do is go to the doctor, and the doctor may prescribe some medication, but no real solutions. I think our healthcare is very good for acute care, but not necessarily for chronic. And the people that I'm working with are really challenged with chronic issues that they don't know what to do about. Food is a very powerful tool, and I think that's kind of been lost in our busy, technologically advanced culture. We don't think about the simplicity of that. And so, yes, poop is a really good diagnostic tool that I use in my practice. So, and I'll also mention, as a functional nutritionist, I try to focus on, I take into account the whole person. So we're not just looking at what that person's eating or not eating, like you said, but we're also going to address sleep. So the 4 pillars of health is what I call them: sleep, stress, nutrition, and exercise. So we're going to look at all of those things, as well as addressing maybe any hormonal imbalance and things like that, because the body works as a system together. There's we can't play target practice with symptoms and only work on one system of the body, because they all work together. So coming back to poop as a diagnostic tool, what I would do after like a comprehensive intake with the client, where of course I would ask lots of questions about their health history. I also get them to do a 5-day journal for me. Now, this is dependent on the client, of course. Not everybody does this. Depends on what they're asking for help with and how I can serve them. And the 5-day journal is called a food, mood, poop journal. And so I get them to record what they've eaten, how that food makes them feel, whether it's physical or emotional, and then what their poop looks like that day. The Bristol Stool Chart is on the internet. Anyone can Google Bristol, Bristol, Bristol Stool Chart, and it kind of grades your poop on a scale of 1 to 5. 1 being constipated, 5 being like explosive diarrhea, and we want to be somewhere in between, like a 3 or a 4. So that's a chart that I would give my clients to use to grade their poops. And we're going to look at color, consistency, frequency, if there's any pain involved, is it easy to pass? Does it smell? Things like that. So you would be surprised to know that your poop shouldn't stink.
I am surprised at that.
Well, I think we think that that's a normal occurrence with humans. But if you have pets, especially dogs, if you're cleaning up after them, you have to pick it up after if you're going for a walk or whatever, you probably will notice your pet's poop doesn't really stink. And if it was foul smelling, you would be less inclined to pick it up. So that's not normal if your poop does stink. So that's part of the diagnostics that I would take into account. And then we would look at if you're having foul smelling poops that are just kind of a pile of pudding in the toilet, they're not well formed. Then we look at what are you eating? So that's what that food mood poop journal does, is it gives me information, but it also helps the client make connections. So we can look at, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So let's say it is a pile of pudding. So is it a blanket diet for every individual that would cause that a reaction, like to have not a well-formed stool? Or do you know what I mean?
No, that's a really good question. Yes, I know what you mean. No, because not everyone is going to react. Everyone is going to react differently to certain types of foods. So for example, if you are lactose intolerant and you don't know that yet, maybe this isn't something you were born with, but you just, whatever happened in your life, whether it's trauma or like emotional trauma or even surgeries, your body is going to change from time to time because of just life experiences that we go through. And let's say someone didn't become lactose intolerant until they were an adult. So they didn't know this because they've been eating dairy products their whole lives. And then all of a sudden they get really bad stomach aches and they're cramping all the time and they have abdominal pain when they have to go to the bathroom for a bowel movement. And then when they do have that bowel movement, it's often more on the diarrhea side of the scale, maybe a 4 or 5 on the Bristol chart. There's pain involved. It smells really bad and it's a pile of pudding in the toilet. It could be because they're eating dairy. Now, I am not dairy intolerant and I can eat dairy. So I'm not going to have those experiences with my poop when I eat dairy. So yes, it's very individual for everyone, not just the food, but how we assimilate the nutrients that we eat.
And the food mood poop journal kind of disseminates what might be causing the pudding in the toilet.
Right. So that's where we're going to make our connections together. It's not just me looking at a chart and going, okay, here's what your problem is. I want to be able to show you, okay, let's look at this journal that you kept. And it looks like here you had a bowel movement at 1:30 and it was a 5 on the stool chart and there was pain and it smelled really bad and you had cramping. Well, what did you eat for lunch that day? Because, it takes some time to process the food that we eat. So then I would look, at 12 or 12:30, it shows here that you had some macaroni and cheese. And maybe it was like homemade kind with like a real cheddar cheese mixed in, not the powdered kind you'd buy from a Kraft dinner box.
Yeah.
Not to drop any brand names, but then I would look at that and over consistency over those 5 days, we would try to find a pattern. Oh, look, every time you ate cheese, you had this bowel movement. And that's where we would make our connections.
Oh, I see.
So the food that you ate, the cheesy dairy, whatever it was, would be in the food column. And then in the mood column, you would record, I was feeling crampy, maybe a little bit irritated that day, or almost like a depressive state, like you just didn't feel good. And then in the poop column, you would show us that you had diarrhea and this is what it looked like and smelled like and blah, blah, blah. And we would make those connections.
So that's a really good exercise, the food mood poop, because now do you find in your practice that when a person does this exercise that the mood is often correlated, like a bad mood or depressive state is correlated with an unhealthy bowel movement?
No, not always with an unhealthy bowel movement, but for sure with foods that aren't serving that person. So that's where I would speak to a client about anti-nutrients. So sometimes if we're not eating healthfully for our body, so I'm not going to say that any one type of food is healthy and any one type of food is not healthy, because again, that's very individual. But that food, mood, poop journal is going to show me, well, this food that you're eating is not serving you because, and this would be backing it up even further, you're having digestive issues every time you eat this one thing, or it's not the best option based on if it's a processed food, it's heavy in seed oils, or sugar. Sugar is a big one. They put sugar in everything nowadays, even salad dressing. And those are again the connections that I would try and make. Well, here's the food that you're eating. This food is highly processed, has a lot of sugar. This is how it's making you feel, and this is what your bowel movements look like after you eat that thing. And then the client starts seeing those patterns from keeping that journal, and they make their own connections. I'm just the guide that shows them. And that's really what the whole idea of functional nutrition is to show you how to do this so you can make your own good decisions about what you're going to eat. And so when I'm talking about anti-nutrients, because anti-nutrients are going to be the opposite of nutrients. So if we're eating highly processed foods and industrial, super refined seed oils, that food, when we are assimilating it, is taking nutrients away from our body because we're not putting the good nutrients in, the vitamins and minerals that we need to process and digest this food, to give our cells the information that they need to function in the way that they need to function. When we put those processed foods in, they take those nutrients away in the process of digestion. So then if you're not getting the nutrients by what you're sticking in your mouth, you're taking it away from your bones and tissues and organs to digest that food. So we're talking about, baking, cakes, pastries, potato chips, that kind of stuff. And that's going to affect us mentally. Because if we're taking away from our body, we're not putting stuff back in, and not just from a cellular level with the tissues and digestive function and bowel movement, but also our mental state that's going to affect.
Yeah. Can you describe for all of the lay people out there, people who are trying to get reconnected to their body, describe what a possible chronic situation is in a person's life, even the subtlest to the most overt.
Okay, well, let's use depression as an example in this scenario. If you are someone who's having feelings of depression or know someone who is, and that person came to me looking for help with functional nutrition, again, 4 pillars of health, we're looking at stress, sleep, exercise, and nutrition. So for today's purposes, we'll just focus on nutrition. I would want to do that food, mood, poop journal with them to see what they're eating and how the constituents of that food are affecting them. So most of us have heard of the gut-brain connection. That's been prevalent in the media lately. So what happens with depression and eating highly processed foods, high sugar, high seed oils, is we consume that food, and then all of those neurochemicals that are going to give us not just feelings of satiety because we've eaten and now we feel better, but also the neurotransmitters that are responsible for your serotonin and dopamine production. We all know those neurotransmitters are responsible for us feeling good and having that elation and euphoria and just a real lust for life. And those neurotransmitters are created in the gut. And then they're sent via the vagus nerve to the brain. So if we're not taking care of our gut with foods that are going to serve us, and we're not assimilating those nutrients properly and giving our bodies and tissues and hormones and neurotransmitters the constituents that they need in the form of vitamins and minerals, then they can't function properly and they can't send those messages. So if my gut is just in a sickly state, I'm not sending those transmissions to my brain for me to feel good. So my brain doesn't get the dopamine and serotonin, and so I just sit there and I'm a lump and I don't feel good and I'm not happy and I just want to sleep on all the time, and I have no motivation to get up and do anything. It all starts in the gut.
You know what's interesting as you're talking, and I'm probably wrong about this. I don't know, but I think a general feel, if a person is depressed, then you go to somebody to talk about it, but you don't necessarily think to go to a functional nutrition practitioner, right?
Right.
Yeah. So
I can speak into that a little bit.
Yeah, awesome.
That is why, if there's any mental health therapists out there listening, why a mental health therapist is a good referral partner for me, and vice versa. Now, a mental health therapist is not trained to be giving nutrition advice, and I am not trained to be counseling people for their mental health. So that's why I think that would be a good partnership, because yeah, you're right. You're not feeling well. Maybe your mom is worried about you and she says, you know what, I think you really need to go and talk to somebody. And you're like, yeah, that's a good idea. So you go and talk to somebody, and they're trying to deal with all the feelings, and that's good. But how do you deal with all the feelings if you continue to put food stuffs into your body that are not conducive of those hormones and neurotransmitters that you need to feel better? So we can talk and talk and talk until we're blue in the face. If we go home after our talk with our therapist and we continue to eat donuts and drink pop or alcohol, that's one that we would be concerned about too. This isn't serving the chemical reactions that need to occur in our gut to serve our mental health, our brain health. And there was something you said there that just made me remember, not just about neurotransmission, but transit time too, if we're keeping on the topic of poop. Yeah. If we're not pooping every day, because we're constipated, because we're eating foods that are bunging us up, and our body doesn't know what to do with these things. So especially trans fat, refined oils, our body doesn't know how to process those. So they get stuck in our cells.
Give an example of a trans fat and a give example. So a person will relate that to their real life. Like, what's an example of
an example of trans fat? So any processed food is going to be trans fatty, especially the baked goods and fried stuff. So if you eat out a lot and you're always ordering the deep fried chicken wings and the dry ribs and the French fries, you're for sure getting trans fats over and over and over again. Eating potato chips, even baked goods have a lot of trans fat in them. Maybe not from a bakery where they've made it that day and it's garbage in 2 days, but if it's sitting on the shelf for 6 months, that kind of food is going to be heavy in trans fats. And the reason why I talk about transit time is because if we're not feeding our body nutrients that it can absorb and use, then that stuff gets stuck in there and we get bunged up. And if we're not having regular bowel movements, and I'm talking about every day, maybe every 2 days for some people would be normal, then the toxins from everything that we're taking in from the environment, the polluted air, the stuff we're putting in our mouth, maybe the chemicals that we're touching that we're not paying attention, that stuff gets stuck in us because we're not assimilating it, soaking it up, and pooping it out. Then you start reabsorbing that stuff. So on the topic of poop, transit time is important too, not just quality and consistency of your poop, but frequency as well. And the transmission time is what we talk about in my counseling sessions too.
Awesome. Okay, transit time, that never occurred to me. So what would be is there a normal, like you said, it might be different for other people, but is there an actual normal transit time that's considered healthy? And
so on my functional nutrition intake forms, I'm looking for 1 to 3 bowel movements a day.
Yeah.
For sure, we want in a healthy body. If you're only pooping every other day, that doesn't mean you're unhealthy. It just means we need to dig deeper and find out why. And is that bothering you? Like, are you coming to me because you're not feeling good about A, B, and C, and you're also not pooping every day? I would look at that and want to address it.
Amazing.
The first tool that I use in my practice with any client, no matter what the symptoms are, is the non-negotiable trifecta, we call it. So sleep, poop, and blood sugar balance are the first things that I'm going to address with the client, no matter what. So poop is number one on the list there.
Number one on the list. And I don't think that I've ever heard that from my regular doctor. Not that that's a bad thing, but this is good education. You know,
Yeah.
It's good education.
I had a client more recently who's been suffering from chronic acne, like since she was young.
Yeah.
And when I sit down and talk with her, I'm asking questions about her bowel movements because I want to know that she's moving toxins out of her body. Because we know if something is breaking out through the skin, whether it's hives or acne or what have you, psoriasis, eczema, whatever, it's due to inflammation inside the body. What's causing that inflammation? Is it toxins in this particular situation? And she for sure was not pooping every day, and that was a concern for me. But when she went to the doctor just gave her medication. No question.
Oh dear. Yeah. So this is the value that you bring to the world, right? Is you're a guide to help unlock an individual's greatest potential in their health and wellness.
Yeah, that's a very good way to describe it. I need to put you on my website.
Sure.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. In a session, I always tell them, I'm the GPS, but you're in the driver's seat. So together we can find solutions. I don't like my clients to think of it as like I'm the boss and I'm telling them what to do and they have to do as I say. That's not a therapeutic relationship. We are working in partnership to do the digging. I'm just helping to be the detective. So you're in the driver's seat. I'm just the GPS. I can give you the tools, but you have to decide if you're going to take that route or not.
Right. So where do you practice? How do people get in touch with you? That kind of thing.
Okay, so I'm currently holding an office at Holistic Physiotherapy and Wellness. It's on 4th Avenue in Saskatoon here. I'm there Tuesdays and Thursdays for bookings. And I do have, my background is as a personal trainer. So I have training clients that I do Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So Tuesdays and Thursdays, I hold office for nutrition counseling sessions. The wellness clinic that I'm in also has complementary services like chiropractic care, massage, physiotherapy. We do have mental health therapists as well. And strategy calls are absolutely free to book with me. So you can call me or email and set up an appointment. Actually, my booking link is something that we should send out.
I'll put it in the description for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So in the description, there can be a QR code or just a website I can give. Strategy calls are about 15 minutes and anyone can call me and book anytime for a 15-minute strategy call. And you just kind of tell me what you're looking for, what your challenges are. And then we can decide together if it's something I can help you with and if it's the right fit, if you feel comfortable talking to me. And then we go from there. But yeah, those are absolutely free. It's free to contact.
Yeah, a person doesn't have to live in Saskatoon to get your services though.
Right. No, we can do, so we have an option for telehealth appointments. So telehealth we do through the Jane app. It's totally secure, very confidential. So you can talk to me about your poops and nobody can hack in on us.
And what is that app?
It's called Jane app. So when you book a strategy call with me, if it's a telehealth appointment, you would get a link. Sorry, strategy calls, I would call you on the phone. If we move forward with counseling services and therapy services, we would book it through telehealth, and that would be an online virtual call, much like Zoom.
And so a person needs to have an app on their phone or their laptop? Oh,
nope, not at all. It's just, they just need Wi-Fi connection or cellular data.
Oh, I see. Okay, and you would provide a link for them to connect through.
Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, I'd never heard of that, so this is really good to.
Yeah, it's I think telehealth is kind of, it's Jane's version of online communication that's secure, and I think medical communities use it.
Oh, I see. Okay, perfect. So that's really good. So a person who's watching this, who lives in even the States or even across the across the world could.
Absolutely, yeah.
Barb, this has been a really good information session for me, and I hope for our viewers. So thank you so much for joining me today, and we are going to talk again at some point. Okay.
Well, thanks for having me. That was a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Bye now.